And that makes it, of course, because you mentioned how of course, we'll have to take a reaction of what Americans are feeling at this point. But according to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, they can go on, and there is no reason, or there is no reason to stop the war as of now. How do you take a look at his comments at the moment?
Well, it's definitely not reflective of a national consensus involved in this war. There's still a lot of debate on whether this war is war of choice or it's responding to an imminent threat regarding our national security. Also, another factor to take into account on whether to look at the justification of it is the sleeper cells that's now a problem within the United States. And so that's going to definitely be one of the determinants when it comes to American polling public opinion about this war.
And because you mentioned sleeper cells, we also have some reports there were assailants that had smashed through the doors of a synagogue in Michigan. There has been a shooting in Virginia where the FBI identified this gunman to have previously been jailed for trying to support Islamic State group. Then we know of these two teens who were earlier charged over Islamic State-inspired attack outside New York Mayor Zohran Mamdani. Do you think that those attacks will be rising and Trump will consider maybe holding back on these attacks when such attacks happen in U.S. itself?
Yes, and even if President Trump ends this war today, those attacks are still going to likely happen as a result of what has developed from this war, especially when it comes to taking out Iranian leadership. They are on a major vengeance. They want to continue to go on. They're culturally very determined. So you will see where, when it comes to domestic security, America will be on high alert for quite some time, even if the war continues or if it ends.
Right, and while we don't see any diplomatic off-ramp in the short term, at least inside, and given the deep mistrust on both the sides here, and of course because of how Tehran is saying that it was in the middle of negotiations and it was willing to make concessions when the US tried it this time and also in June last year, do you think there is going to be a situation perhaps in the long term where the US and Iran are forced back to the negotiating table despite this deep mistrust on both sides?
Yes, I do. I do think they'll come to the table because someone on one or the other side, and I think most likely will be Iran, will run out in terms of munitions, capabilities. One side is going to outperform than the other when it comes to ongoing attacks through its missiles or munitions. So we will see in terms of the endurance of it. I don't think Iran really has the endurance to outperform the United States and Israel. And if that day does come, that may pressure Iran to come back to the table to speak with the United States.
While that might be the case, we also understand that this has also been pegged as, a race against time, where we understand that the US might have superior firepower, but Iran has also created this high endurance model where it can sustain, for a longer period of time. And given this asymmetrical model in place, do you think there's a chance that Iran would be able to, would be willing to actually concede first, given that US is facing a lot of pressure internally and from its allies, as we've just discussed? And I think the question here could also be how long can US sustain this kind of pressure and keep going in a capacity which it's operating at right now?
United States can definitely outperform Iran in terms of endurance, but based on what we've seen historically, especially with Iran engaging with Israel, many of these conflicts turn to 7 days or 10-day or 12-day wars, which is reflective of their endurance. So I don't think they'll outperform the United States. However, I do think they'll go longer than 12 days because of the fact that they not only have invested a lot in their stockpiling, but also they have enablers like Russia, security assistance, possibly in security assistance from the Chinese, North Korea, and others to help give them the battlefield confidence by investing more in their capabilities to stay engaged. And we just saw that recently with Russia as far as providing intelligence to Iran.